Hello, we're the Nostalgia Critics. We remember Doug, so you don't have to remember Doug. Season 9. That's it. Season 9. Go. So Aiden, what was our first episode?
Our number one episode of the season is The Happening. There's some weird fart fetish Zooey Deschanel stuff for some reason.
It's like in every shot she realized she shit her pants and she wants nobody to realize it.
Most of it's not that bad. A little bit of it is kind of funny. Malcolm and Tamara get Shyamalanized, whatever the fuck it's called.
Get out of here, Shyamalan!
In a moment, I want to see how my tropes are coming. Any new developments?
Yes! As you know, Jim and I have solved our problems using symbolism.
And even that's decent. It's not like horrendous. Yeah, it's definitely the most watchable of the season.
Alright, next we have The Labyrinth. He actually likes the movie, which is pretty rare for things that he reviews. He makes about 10,000 jokes about David Bowie's dick being huge.
It's the missing Muppet, Stiffy. You think that was puppeted by Frank Oz? I'm gearing up for the prestige. Want to see my Tesla coil?
And all, David Bowie's dick shows in Labyrinth, but I wouldn't say personally it's that big, but I don't know. What do I know about dicks?
Number 3 is Blade. Pretty much the only funny part of this one is the one where he makes a joke about making up genders.
Quickly, Tumblr, rewrite this ending so that not only do they get together, but they have 20 children, all with different sexual identities. If 20 sexual identities don't exist, make them up! You're good at that!
The rest of it is decent, but it's nothing special.
Well, I thought Blade was something kind of interesting to watch a video on. It's like an interesting movie. Next is Goofy secretly badass? He talks about these like 1960s,
Probably
50s, 60s
yeah.
Goofy cartoons and talks about how Goofy would like smoke cigars and shit and how he was like an insert for working people. It was kind of interesting, I suppose.
Number 5 is Was the Mask Supposed to Be Gory, which is a horrible title, but it's basically a retrospective on the Mask comics. It's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Next is I'll Be Home for Christmas. Again, per usual, Doug had kind of a sappy ending.
Well, wait, can you stay a bit?
Oh, we don't want to impose or anything like that.
You two are welcome in here anytime you want.
That made no sense. Doug had a lot of shit in this season where it was like random jokes and shit that just would make no fucking sense at all. He just would ramble on, and he rambles on about some shit about Christmas that made no sense, but otherwise it was a pretty decent episode. He kind of just roasted the main character for being a massive douchebag. A lot of his criticisms are valid, so it was fine.
Next up is The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, the live action one from like 2008 or so. He actually talks about liking it and talks about how it's kind of representative of the cartoon. You know, it's nice to see Doug like something because he's better at talking about things he likes.
Next is Freddy vs. Jason. He talks about Freddy vs. Jason, which is a movie I've personally seen many times. It's mostly fine. It's kind of interesting. I think this is one of the videos that gets raised up a bit just because it's a topic I'm interested in. You know, that made it kind of interesting. He did this skit at the end about Zack Snyder and Michael Bay.
Now you hold on a minute there, sir. That is rude.
Yeah, Zack Snyder and Michael Bay here. We're the kings of PG-13. We take great offense to that.
Christ, you two are the reason so many R films are few and sucky now.
I do like that he compares Zack Snyder to Michael Bay. Doug is actually one of the few, I wouldn't peg Doug for a Snyder hater, truthfully. Based on how Doug acts at times, I would assume he would be brain dead enough to like Zack Snyder films. And comparing him to Michael Bay is a pretty apt comparison, I think, in a lot of ways. So I actually didn't hate it.
Yeah, and Ash from The Evil Dead says, Pokemon, go fuck yourself.
Pokemon, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I forgot about that. He does this versus match thing to compare to Freddy vs. Jason and Batman v Superman.
Next up is the top 11 Gravity Falls episodes. It seems like a fine list. I don't know anything about Gravity Falls, but I'm sure it's a good list, maybe? I don't know.
Next is the third animated Titanic movie.
Also called Tentaclino.
It was the third Titanic movie. Definitely not as good as the first two, which I think are pretty decent early Doug episodes.
Yeah, it's not even close.
It's just a meh episode all around. Like this new Titanic movie wasn't as interesting. There wasn't as much to roast. It was kind of just Doug wanted to do another Titanic one, and there was another one to do, so he did it. A Cinema Snob shows up, and he has a weird prostitute joke.
Well, I know a gaggle of hookers soon to have my name on them.
Which is kind of funny, I guess.
Yeah.
AVGN shows up, and so does Zuko from Avatar.
There's like 10 seconds filmed at a con for some reason that I assume they're just all at.
Yeah, they shot some scenes at the con. The con didn't have any particularly cringy characters when he did the old crowd turnaround.
Number 11 is Pinky Elmira in the Brain, Was That Real? It's just a retrospective on that series that seems decent, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, the Was That...
A lot of the Was That Real videos are fine. He basically just talks about some random obscure shit. Some of them are really bad though, because he talks about utter garbage.
Yeah, the Was That Real series took a pretty big hit this season. There definitely wasn't as many as the last season, which had like 6 or 7. Next is Inspector Gadget Saves Christmas. I mean, it was mostly fine, truthfully. I didn't mind it. Like, he kind of just reviews a shitty animated movie. It had some interesting things. For some reason, he got the original voice actor for Penny Gadget when he was at some convention, and she swore and made jokes about how she hates Inspector Gadget.
I created the Gadget 9000 prototype, and you dumbasses fell for it.
Is this the best Batman movie? Doug talks about Mask of the Phantasm. He kind of talks in circles where he just kind of repeats himself over and over. He's like, it's really cool and well animated. He doesn't say much about it, but I guess it's nice to... I kind of just like videos where Doug talks about things he likes better than things he doesn't like, because he's not a nitpicky asshole.
He tried, at least. Yeah, it was very, like, around in circles, where for the first, like, 4 minutes I was like, oh, this is a pretty good Doug video. And then it's like, he just kept going. He didn't really have anything more to add. He just kept talking. Next is Spy Kids 3D. For some reason, like, most of the video is fine, I guess, as far as Doug standards go. But he keeps asserting that Spy Kids 3D reinvigorated the 3D craze, which...
I'm glad it got people looking at the possibility of using 3D in films again, but...
Avatar did, not Spy Kids. Spy Kids was a gimmick 3D movie. Perhaps out of its time, because 3D movies of Spy Kids 3D's stature was more of like a 50s and 80s phenomenon, but...
15 is Wild Wild West. He actually has a little criticism in the movie in here besides just nitpicking, where he kind of just talks about how the film doesn't have a genre and it's pretty awkward. It's not the best Doug video, it's not the worst.
Next we have Adventures of Pluto Nash, joke in it where Hillary Clinton's face is printed on money. And this is like right before the 2016 election.
Yeah, and
he's like, this joke will either age horribly or very well. And he like made some joke about how...
Well, he gives 3 different jokes for who won, and all 3 of them aged pretty badly.
Or, as they call it, 10 million Hillarys. Okay, this is a tough one because as of the date this review is coming out, I don't know if this is incredibly clever or incredibly dated. So, for the first time ever, I am giving you a multiple choice joke. Just come back after November 8th and choose from one of these options. A, well, they can obviously throw that prop in the fire. It wouldn't be the first time she felt the burn. B, well, she bought the rest of Hollywood to get the presidency. Are we really surprised by this? Or C,
Hillary could have won, but she really felt the burn this time. Like, he was really confident Bernie Sanders was going to win, and then he made a cheap Hitler joke with Trump.
Next we have Spawn. Doug helps Satan train to be better.
Mr. Sabub, what is this? What's with this crazy plan and that fake dollar store Muppet?
I just feel like I'm not as popular as I used to be.
Which I guess is a skit that fits in with Spawn. You know, Spawn's like a satanic character. The Spawn movie has some funny things to roast, but the video kind of overstayed its welcome like most Doug videos. Again, this would be a fine review if it was like 15 minutes, but of course, since it's a main series, non like video essay type Doug video, it just kind of gets really old.
Number 18 is Cats and Dogs. Doug has a really weird joke in this one where he gets a foul for making fun of Alec Baldwin.
Ideal casting, having Alec Baldwin play a bitch. Oh, come on! Come on!
Flag. During the review, too easy a joke, replay last line, critic has to say something nice about the movie.
Man, this is a real tough break for the critic.
I hear you, Frank, but if you look at the replay, he clearly took too obvious a stab at an easily unlikable actor.
Right you are, Ken.
It looks like he's gonna try and say something positive about the film.
At least it's not Santa Paws?
And it is good, it works, the review can continue.
It's like a sports clip.
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere.
Say something nice about it. It comes out of nowhere. It's really weird, and I don't really get it.
They're like, the joke's too easy.
And there's like a subplot in this one where the alcoholic lady character that he introduces that Tamara plays takes videos of him to make it seem like he hates Deadpool or something, and it's not funny.
A Nostalgia Critic negative review.
I really hate this movie.
I guess most of it is fine, because Cats and Dogs is easy pickings.
Right. Next we have Gem and the Holograms. Doug does a song, which is really cringe at the start.
Critic's excitement. Ooh, critic. He's flashy and things like that. Fashion glitter, turning heads, and that's really about it. Critic.
But the rest is mostly just Doug video. He also kind of like, Doug also kind of was like, the Gem and the Holograms fan base is getting me so offended by this movie.
There is no Doug and there's no Gem and the Holograms fan base.
There probably is somewhere, but it's like, Doug, you must be part of it because, but I don't know. I don't see enough. I don't know. And then he like plays this fucking montage of like Gem and the Holograms fans, which were like actually in the movie or something. And then he's like, it's false advertising because these aren't what they now it looks like they like the movie. I'm like, okay, whatever, Doug, who gives a fuck?
20 is Lady in the Water. There's a part in Lady in the Water where a kid reads cereal boxes to read the future, and Doug thinks it's the funniest thing ever and fake laughs for like 6 minutes straight, and it's fucking obnoxious.
We need a man who has no secrets and one whose opinion is highly respected as witnesses.
And the rest is whatever.
Next is Nightmare Before Christmas really that great? He basically says it's not that good, but people see it as kind of like an iconic imagery or something that is now synonymous with Halloween and Christmas. So there's that. And I tend to agree with his opinion. I don't really care for the movie that much as a movie, but I guess I understand the cultural impact. It really doesn't say anything that special. It's kind of boring, and again, as a video essay, he kind of just talks in circles.
Number 22 is Why Do Good Directors Go Bad? This one is the first in the playlist, so it means every time we clicked on the playlist, we'd have to listen to the little jingle at the start. It's like a Looney Tunes jingle where he's like, why does everyone keep on hiring me? All of my work is shit.
Why does everybody keep on hiring me? All of my work is shit.
So that made it kind of ingrained in my head, painfully. But most of it is kind of just him talking about how directors kind of just like try to live up to themselves so much that they kind of just end up sucking because they're
being like
doing
homogenous of themselves.
Which isn't so bad, I guess.
Next is When Are Critics Wrong? Doug basically says critics watch a lot of movies, so they'll notice details the general audience will, but they're not always going to agree on the consensus of the general audience because movies are emotional things, which I suppose I agree with, but it's just nothing special. He's not really saying anything new, and most professional critics are fucking retarded.
Number 24 is The Grinch vs. the Cat in the Hat. It's pretty much a mediocre look at some weird crossover from the 70s.
Next is all the Looney Tunes movies. Most of the Looney Tunes movies he talks about are Looney Tunes clip movies, where they basically string together old shorts with like a little bit of new footage. Then he talks about Space Jam, which he's already talked about earlier in like season 1 or 2. And then he talks about Looney Tunes back in action. It's not that entertaining. It's bogged down with a bunch of shit. I guess it's kind of interesting when he talks about how, like, what was his fucking name? Mel Blanc, I think. Mel Blanc was, like, getting old in the clip shows, so it kind of shows, but for the most part, it was kind of just meh. He didn't really cover anything that worth reviewing that he hasn't done before.
Number 26 is the Teddy Ruxpin, the live-action series, Was That Real? Nobody cared about this, and Doug just used it as an excuse to reference his terrible, ancient Teddy Ruxpin Halloween special.
Next is TMNT Out of the Shadows, much like the last TMNT movie he reviewed. Michael Bay TMNT. James Rolfe shows up. He also has Black Nerd Comedy.
There's a video game of the same name?
There is.
Is that like Turtles 3, Turtles in Time, but wasn't called Turtles in Time,
No, it
but the
wasn't
Super
Time.
Nintendo
It was
was?
good though.
And the three of them review Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. John Bailey shows up and becomes some cartoon combination character.
Don't forget Super Thunder Morphin Bet.
John Bailey, the voice guy. They do a bunch of skits and shit. I wouldn't say it's as bad as the first one, because the first one had the song. First one had a lot of like skits of them traveling around. The one thing I will say that's really fucking awkward, the most awkward I should say, I thought the editing was kind of awkward with like their voice clips where they're all written clearly by Doug. Like they kind of just came out and read the script. Where like Doug will be saying something and then he'll pass it over to Angry Video Game Nerd who will say a different thought, but it's clearly not like
his thought.
And it's not his thought, and it's not written like AVGN, you know? It's not like I would even understand if like Doug and Rob, to make the review more concise, gave him an outline and said, okay, you write this like you would write Andre the Black Nerd episode, or you write this like you'd write an Angry Video Game Nerd episode.
Just feel like Doug.
They all feel like Doug, so it's just kind of awkward where it's like, I'm Andre the Black Nerd, and I think that it was awesome that Krang came back. But the one thing I have a problem with, and then it like switches over to like James, and James will like continue his fucking sentence, and then fucking Doug will finish it off, and it's like, it's obviously like, it's unnecessary to have these crossovers when they're not these characters. It's just these people show up to read Nostalgia Critic lines. It's not Angry Video Game Nerd and Andre the Black Nerd come out and work with Doug to create, some kind of like crossover review with all their thoughts. And I'm sure it's like a culmination. I'm sure it's not like, I'm sure there was a bit of like
back and forth
consensus of how it went. I'm sure they actually agreed on what they thought about the movie. But because Rob and Doug wrote the fucking thing, mainly, wrote the dialogue, I'm sure, it felt really, like, awkward. Like, it wasn't actually, like, their thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like,
that is an issue with a lot of these crossover episodes, but this is one especially where it felt like that, where, like, at times, like, when it would be, like, movie footage and without cutting back to them, it would change. I would kind of just not even really notice that the voice actor changed. Well, like, I mean, I could tell the voice was different, but it didn't feel like the thought was in a different direction or it was, like, a unique thought. I don't know. But Zack Snyder, this is actually the one where Zack Snyder becomes Michael Bay's asshole.
You know how Krang's mind was in his stomach? Well, take a look where mine is. Hey, guys. Man, I have fused into one. Our love of destroying things has finally resulted in the destruction of your species.
I mentioned that in the first one. They crossed over.
Malcolm becomes a platypus bunny and shoots fire breath at him.
Hello.
Malcolm?
Yeah, it turns out my animal ancestor was a giant platypus bunny. I just played around with that dormant gene and here I am. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go breathe fire on these guys because that's what platypus bunnies can do.
They also, like, I don't remember if they sang a song or something, but it was something about, like, Michael Bay and Zack Snyder become, like, gay for each other, or it was a commercial. It was some kind of skit where Michael Bay and Zack Snyder are, like, gay for each other, so there you go.
28 is Battle of the Commercials. Like always, these live or die based on the quality of the commercials. Doug sings a spooky song about a black couch.
I have a black couch to sell, and I know the best way to do it. Black couch, I moved a black couch.
Because he thinks that spooky songs are how you sell things.
Yeah, he's like, everything's spooky.
Pretty much the only notable thing is that Malcolm appears in his fursuit. I assume it's Malcolm, because Malcolm's a fur.
That's what you think.
Tuffy the tiger!
What you need is a helping of my Toffee Flakes. It brings out the toughness in you.
So you think you're any good?
Toffee Flakes good? They're granulated sugar.
Yeah, I mean, it was a moving mouth fursuit, so if Doug actually bought that, it'd be kind of an expensive gag just to do a Tony the Tiger.
There's not really any notable commercials in it.
Yeah, okay, so next we have top 12 Christmas commercials. There were actually a couple funny ones in here. The problem is I don't remember them because when you see 30 fucking commercials... Well, this one's top 12, so for some reason he formed this into a top 12 list as well as a commercials episode. My problem with Christmas commercials, and me and Aiden were discussing this while we watched it, is Christmas commercials tend to be kind of like sappy and obviously trying to play into like the holiday spirit is being kind and giving or something, and or whatever, or wholesome moments and bullshit. So a lot of them weren't that interesting. The one that I thought was funny was the Folgers incest commercial. Doug was able to play on that well.
You're my present this year.
They're brother and sister.
But the rest were kind of unmemorable and like just boring by default because Christmas commercials are boring, so there wasn't much for Doug to play off of and make funny shit. But the Folgers commercial was fine, I suppose.
30 is Disney sequels we want. Most of the list is whatever, but Doug has an idea for a Robin Hood sequel where it's like CGI and it's like Robin Hood's kids going on adventures, and it sounds fucking horrific.
In fairness, that's probably what Disney would have done if they made a Robin Hood.
Oh, I'm sure they would. It would have been horrific.
No, it would have been horrific. The CGI idea was pretty terrible. He also kind of shit on Robin Hood's drawings. He's like, wow, you know, hand drawing, hand animation looks bad or something.
To be fair, Robin Hood is a pretty cheaply produced movie. Like, you can see
it's pretty
compilations where they have, like, where they literally just traced over old animations they already had and stuff.
No, it's pretty sketchy, but
I do
in
like
all
the style
honesty,
Robin Hood has, but
you know, I don't mind the old. Maybe part of it's nostalgia for Robin Hood because I remember watching that movie on VHS a lot as a kid. But I truthfully don't mind how it looks. And Doug was a little too ass mad in that second about how it looks. Honestly, otherwise, the sequels he brought up were kind of like, a couple of them weren't a terrible idea. I don't know if I would have ran with them, but whatever. It was pretty much shit, truthfully. Next is Was Tiny Toons Written by Kids? The episode's called Was Tiny Toons Written by Kids? The truth is, there was one episode written by a kid, and he has an interview with the kids, one of the 3 kids that wrote the episode. He really clickbaited this one. But there was one episode of Tiny Toons written by a group of 13-year-old girls, and he got a hold of this 13-year-old girl who, for some reason, 20 years later looks like she's fucking 70, even though she's probably Doug's age or younger. She's like, well, I was just, reading the newspaper, and we took a walk and watched the nightly news, and but 20 years ago when I was 13, I wrote an episode of Tiny Toons. And then Doug will make like a joke that, he interviewed her beforehand on Skype,
then he made jokes after,
filmed it and made jokes after. Like he took the questions and made like jokes out of them. To try to like actually make it seem like a Nostalgia Critic episode. This seems like some kind of extra. Should have been some extra.
Should have been on
but
a DVD
instead
somewhere.
it was some low end shit. Like he fucking probably had this girl, and she seemed by how she was talking like she's in the realm of cartoon fandoms and shit. She's probably a fan of Doug. Yeah. He probably found her on Twitter. And then he probably found it as an excuse to get away with a week's Nostalgia Critic episode by writing up 15 questions and having this uncharismatic woman talk about her experience. And not that it wasn't totally uninteresting or something. Like, there was a interesting aspect to it, but truthfully, like...
She's a pretty bad interviewee.
It feels like something that would more have been like... Should have been like a Channel Awesome extra video, like an out of character, but it felt like he was just lazy, so he just whipped this together as a Nostalgia Critic episode. Also, the title's horrible clickbait because... That, you know, yes is the answer to was Tiny Toons written by kids, but it was an episode and it's not really answering that question. It's just an interview with some random woman. So
32 is, does PG mean anything anymore? Doug complains that the PG rating doesn't really have any purpose, which is true, but also who cares?
I have a question though for Doug. Does anyone give a fuck but like parents? And they're like, well,
no, even parents don't give a fuck. They'll just take their kids to whatever.
PG-13.
Fucking Avengers is PG-13. Fucking 6-year-olds are in the audience, every single one.
Right. The thing is, I mean, first off, in fairness, I think it should just be PG and R. I think PG-13 is a useless fucking rating. Because if a 6-year-old gets dropped off at a fucking... Like, if you're going to a movie theater with your kids... PG or PG-13, you're going to have to go with them probably if they're like younger than 13. But if you're watching it at home, people throw their fucking kids in front of Avengers. And do people even care that much about ratings anymore?
No, they don't. That's why
nobody cares. But it's 10 minutes of bullshit, whatever. Next is How Right Are Trailers. He basically just talks about how trailer houses get like sent a little bit of footage and have to piece something together to look cool, and he's like, but they always look epic, despite not always being right, or something. I don't fucking know what the fuck he talks about, I barely remember.
34 is, can a film be so good it's bad? Doug talks about how all movies have flaws and he doesn't like perfect movies and that perfect movies bore him or something. I don't really know. It's kind of rambling and weird and kind of just made to fill a fucking episode slot.
It's retarded. He came up with the fucking... He heard So Bad It's Good, and he's probably made it... Rob probably said, like, it's so good it's bad, or something, about some, like, fucking, like, Boyhood or some, whatever the fuck they were talking about. And he's like, that's actually a good video topic. And then he didn't know what to do, so he just rambled on for 10 minutes. And the thing is, like... This video is retarded, never mind. I was going to get into it, but I don't even know. I'm beyond actual belief. Next is Where's the Fair Use, where Doug makes up this WTFU hashtag about how his videos keep getting striked. Doug, we went over this many times. I don't want to go back over
Doug's
this.
videos aren't very fair use.
They're not fair fucking use.
Your movie sucks shows up and he actually has a valid complaint because fucking Cool Cat was... actually doing some bullshit
I
on
Hate
it.
Everything got his fucking channel.
I Hate Everything.
About it.
Your Movie Sucks was also there. He fucks dogs.
He fucks dogs. Your movies suck. We finally have an excuse to talk about you, and you fuck dogs. So there you go. It's boring as fuck. Doug just bitches on. Fucking Your Movies Suck bitches on. I Hate Everything bitches on. And look, I agree with part of the criticism. I think I Hate Everything definitely has a style that's within fair use, so especially his, I think it's bullshit. Doug's is very questionably full use. I haven't seen a Your Movies Suck video since like 2015, but he was like a Plinkett clone, so his is maybe kind of fair use, but probably about the same as Doug.
Your Movie Sucks basically makes fucking slideshows. I don't know how long he's been making slideshows, but nowadays it's all he does, so...
Well, I remember
his videos probably are.
I saw one of his videos on, like, Neil Breen. Before I think even Red Letter Media introduced me to Neil Breen. I think, I saw one of his, because that was one of his big videos that made him popular. Like, he kind of made Neil Breen popular the same way that, like, he made Cool Cat popular, actually. But I watched his Your Movie, I watched that, and I just remember thinking it was a huge Plinkett clone. But I wouldn't even say Plinkett's really fully fair use, in fairness.
Probably not.
Because it's transformative. It's completely, untransformative. I mean, it's more transformative, I think, because it was more opinion-based than like a Doug video, where a lot of it's just recounting the plot with little riffs in there. But I guess that's neither here nor there. It was just a boring fucking video.
36 is Tangled vs. Frozen. He talks about how both films are kind of similar, weighs them against each other a little bit, but he also goes like severely off topic and just starts talking about random bullshit in the middle of this video, because Doug doesn't plan out his fucking editorials, he kind of just rambles. It feels a lot like his Ken Hype Kill a Good Film, where he's like, I think people treat Frozen kind of unfairly because everyone hyped it up, but Tangled's kind of the underdog, which makes people like it. And like 8 minutes of the 10-minute video are just dedicated to that, and it's like, whatever.
Next we have Batman v Superman. Angry Joe and Doug team up once again. They talk about Batman vs Superman. You know, their opinions on it was mostly fine. I mean, they basically hit a lot of the beats where like it makes no sense. The movie's fucking cringy, stupid. They reenact the footage, which, you know, the reenactments tend to just be terrible. There's nothing really entertaining about them. A lot of them are just bad. At the end, they're like, truth be told, I like the movie because Batman fights Superman. But then they also kind of like say, like, you know, it's hard. Okay, when you have the argument that Batman v Superman is only good because Batman fights Superman, it becomes awful hard and hypocritical for you to then be able to criticize someone like Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Because
the fights are really cool, but everything else is bad. And also, this is another one of the reenactment episodes, if you couldn't
I just said that. Yeah, Zack Snyder as a character, you know, Doug's reenactment of Zack Snyder. I don't know why I did like the quote-unquote Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder. Doug's Zack Snyder.
Pretty bad reenactment.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad reenactment, but this is where he starts showing up as a recurring character.
38 is Dreamcatcher. Doug loves to roast Stephen King movies. This one potentially could have been good because I thought the movie itself was kind of entertaining, and I thought his commentary on it wasn't like that bad. The problem is, there's two problems. One is really big, but not that bothersome, and one is really small, but not that bothersome. It's a Film Brain episode, and we love to mock Film Brain.
I don't know what you mean. We're just our normal American selves.
You sure you haven't been taken over by aliens? Because that would just make too much sense.
Oh, yes.
In this one, Film Brain takes over Tamara and Malcolm's bodies, and he, you know, the concept is kind of funny, but they don't really do anything with it. They have like 3 or 4 cutaway gags where they go back to it. I don't think it really works, but it has one of the strangest moments. For some reason, Doug keeps making jokes that make no sense in this season. So there's a scene in the movie where a guy gets a telepathic call through his gun. He answers the gun and he talks to the guy. And Doug makes this quip that I do not understand. I've thought about it every night since we watched it. The guy picks up the phone, and then Doug comments on what happens in the scene, and then Doug says, Pokemon gotta catch 'em all.
He hung up. Oh, Pokemon gotta catch 'em all. So they find out where Duddits is.
And that's it. There's no context. I don't understand what it means. I literally do not understand the joke. Like, no matter what I do, in my fucking head.
Did we miss some context? Because I was...
No, there's no context.
No, like maybe earlier in the video.
I don't think so, because I was paying attention to that one. I don't know. That's all I have to say about Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, that was bizarre. Scooby-Doo 2. Doug really hates the live-action Scooby-Doo movies, which they're not for everyone. I hate the first live-action Scooby-Doo movie. I still think the second one's good. I'm just gonna play the I think Coolsville sucks thing here because I can.
Saying is, it's all downhill for Mystery Inc.
No! Hey, you're doing that thing again where you take everything I say out of context. You're trying to make it look like I think Coolsville sucks. No! Don't record that!
All Fred Jones had to say was,
I think Coolsville sucks.
in light of this...
For some reason, he makes a weird-ass Psych parody that runs through this whole thing.
Get me Gus, Lassie, and Jules.
What?
We know, you thought it'd be Scooby-Doo. Don't go, we'll show us still doing the review. We love this show and the satires they do. Here's one on them, and you have to admit it that we psyched you out in the end.
Our channel has a weird history with Psych. It's like our one of our
earliest videos.
One of our early videos. We have some like podcast style videos we recorded before him, and one of our earliest when we launched into the style that we basically have today. We talked about Psych because my grandma gave me the Psych DVDs every year.
Yeah, we have like 7
I was a casual fan of Psych on USA when I was in like elementary school. And for some reason we decided to watch the pilot and review the pilot of Psych. And actually Doug makes a lot of the same points we made in the pilot episode about like Sean thinking he's like a young biker when he's out of touch or something. But the skit is terrible, despite him making similar critiques to us. And he makes this weird ass mystery he sets up the whole time. That fucking Indian guy is like secretly, or like he's like, I'm the bad guy, but Doug doesn't get it the whole time or something.
Hey, look, this really isn't that hard of a mystery to solve. You know, the answer might be right in front of you.
And then it turns out to be Tamara because
he wanted a twist.
Because he wanted a twist, and I guess he might have set it up in earlier shots.
He does set it up in earlier shots. Like all the shots he shows are real, but nobody was paying enough attention.
And even then, it's like you still wouldn't guess it's fucking Tamara. And he's like, see, wasn't that more clever than the Scooby-Doo movie? It's big budget. And I'm like, no, it wasn't.
He's pretty full of himself.
What you're doing is the only reason you wouldn't guess Tamara is because you have this massive fucking red herring. You literally have someone screaming the whole time, I'm the bad guy, so you think, okay, the joke is that Doug is too oblivious to realize he's the bad guy. And then he's gonna sneak shit that makes Tamara turn out to be the bad guy.
Secretly a genius twist?
And you could secretly have noticed these things, but only if you secretly understand like the secret the entire time. But you're never gonna understand the secret because it's doesn't make fucking sense when you actually break it down. So that is my fucking issue with it. And then, my other question is, why the fuck did he do a Psych parody? Why is Doug into... I don't know. Why would he do a Psych parody? What possessed him in 2016, years after Psych was canceled? I guess like the Psych 2... There's like 2 Psych movies now. Like they're still making a movie. I think there's one coming out this year.
I'm pretty sure.
Like a second or a third
this
Psych
year
movie.
Maybe.
But I thought it was... I think it's like made for Netflix or some shit or Hulu.
Yeah.
But regardless, I don't understand why Psych is relevant. Oh, Psych has like 2 or 3 good episodes. I like the Friday the 13th episode they made. Which reminds me that I just made a Friday the 13th video, which is a part 4, and 3 years earlier we made 3 other parts. Watch those. Shill.
Number
It was
4.
a shill. Connected it all together.
Number 40 is Can an Ending Ruin a Film? Doug's thesis, he makes these comparisons. He's like, if food is good, but it has a spice you kind of don't like, you don't hate it. He kind of rambles on. He's like, endings don't necessarily reflect on the film, but it's like your last impact. He's kind of weird and contradictory throughout it. It's not like the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's kind of just like a weird fence-sitting opinion on can an ending ruin a film when it's like obvious yes it can, because it's like your last impression of a movie, and if your last impression is bad, it's gonna sour you on it,
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about that, really.
Next is How True is Amadeus. This is basically a video where Doug praises Amadeus, and he says because Amadeus isn't 100% historically accurate, or isn't very historically accurate, or whatever, it actually leads to a better film because it's made for theatrical storytelling.
And that's fine.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's fine to say that. If your opinion is that,
but here's the thing,
you can still like a historically inaccurate movie. Like a lot of people like Hamilton, but that's incredibly historically inaccurate.
The thing that makes the video bad is that apparently I haven't seen Amadeus. Actually, I think I have, but it's been like years. but it's told from the point of view of the guy who might have killed him, but the guy was crazy in real life, and like this, it's all based on like his stories, and so Doug's point is that it's historically inaccurate because it's from an unreliable narrator, and that makes it more accurate, and it's kind of a really stupid point when you could just say, like, I get where he's coming from, but you could also just say, like, sometimes it just makes a better movie to be historically inaccurate. Who cares?
Right.
You know?
And that's a fine opinion. I mean, like I was saying, like, even, like, Hamilton is historically inaccurate. A lot of people praise that. I've never seen it. I don't care to see it. But that's a fine opinion. It's just how he, like, wanted to say, despite its historical inaccuracies, because this person in real life was crazy and might be deluded, that actually makes it like an intention. The implication, the thing that would have to be to make it a better movie is, because this man was crazy, the director decided to add these historical inaccuracies despite that. Although there's no evidence based on the Amadeus film, and it's been years since I've seen it as well, but based on what was presented in Amadeus, the evidence, I don't think, really proves that the point of view is supposed to be skewed to the point of the killer. Thus, his point is fucking stupid. He could just say, despite the fact that it's historically inaccurate, I still think it's a good movie. Which is a fair opinion. But he just kind of said it like a retard. Or justified it like a retard, I should say.
Yeah. 42 is the top 11 Disney princess conspiracies. This is basically a really crappy BuzzFeed article, like narrated by Doug. He's like, oh, all the princesses who weren't rich before have gloves on. And bullshit like that. It's almost, like, he even posts screenshots of, like, BuzzFeed articles that he got these ideas from. His number one is this conspiracy that Frozen and Tangled take place at the same time, because something about a boat, and like the boat appears in The Little Mermaid or some bullshit.
Look, I'm the expert.
I haven't seen Frozen 2, but
on Frozen 2 and Tangled. I've seen all three of the movies. Okay, so Elsa and Anna's parents die on a boat when they're sailing over to somewhere. I don't really remember. The theory is that they were on the way to Rapunzel's christening. Coronation, whatever, who fucking cares. They were on the way over to Rapunzel, and that the boat that was swam through was in the Little Mermaid. The issue is, while that was a good theory back then, now it's kind of like an impossible theory, because as we've seen in Frozen 2, Elsa's traveling through the woods and shit. I don't really remember what happens. I was actually pretty drunk when I saw Frozen 2. But I do remember that Elsa's parents' boat, they found frozen in some sort of ice thing. So it couldn't possibly be true.
Fair enough. Also, some of the stuff on the list. One of his conspiracy theories is that, like, Snow White is 14, but that's not a conspiracy theory. That's just like true. That's just like your canon age. That's like a fact. And he's like, it's a conspiracy theory that Snow White is 14, really, but she just is.
Like, she's really old. She looks a lot older. I'm like, actually, I think Snow White looks like she could be 14. Truthfully, like she's like dressed like a princess or something. But I don't. Like, honestly, like, she looks pretty young. I mean, the old style of animation and, like, old stylings might confuse Doug,
but yeah,
I don't disbelieve that she's 14.
It's a pretty awful list.
I also like how Doug does that thing, and I don't know
Doug
why
even
this
admits.
I don't know why this is the cringiest thing ever to me, but he's like, honestly, when I look at Snow White, she looks like she's, like, 18. I would even believe 21. I don't know why that's, like, the cringiest thing to me. When you like try to guess someone's age exactly based on how they look
Doug
as
even
a cartoon
says,
character, you know?
Doug even says at the start of the video, he's like, Disney princesses are hot clickbait right now, so I'm gonna make a Disney princess clickbait. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, that kind
Eye
of
roll.
Just instantly saying this is a cash grab. Which, I mean, I would respect if you're being based about it, but then Doug goes on to make this legitimate list and then, like, act like he gives a fuck. Next is... Okay, thank you, Doug, for making this, because this season wasn't the most entertaining to talk about, but he made a video called, Is Whitewashing Still a Thing? This is another one I have quite a bit to say about. So Doug basically says, like, we owe black people roles, so it's not a big deal that they, like, changed the Human Torch to be black. Which, you know, I don't think we, like, you know, as Hollywood, I should say, owes, like, black people to, like, make a character a different race. I also don't have a problem with making a character another race.
I don't have a problem with making a character a different race. The problem is the weird hypocrisy where it's like you turn some character who's always been white-black, and it's like, good job. And then it's a big some character who was like half, like 1/4 Indian becomes full white, and they're like, no, this is so racist.
Right. Well, then,
I
like,
don't get it.
Well, then, like, Doug fence sits it the whole time, where he's like, I don't think it's that bad for story reasons to change him to white. But then he's like, but it's such a crime. And he doesn't understand there's a difference between whitewashing and blackface. I mean, they're both seen as negatives.
It does compare both a lot.
Blackface, I would say, is worse than whitewashing. But he is convinced they're the same thing when they're not necessarily the same thing. Or, like, not just blackface necessarily, but, you know, like, turning yourself to look like a Fu Manchu Asian. He always uses footage of that, which is kind of weird. But ultimately, it's just a big, like, fence-sitting video. He keeps talking about how, like, Ghost in the Shell and all these anime characters got turned white when a good handful of anime characters were actually white. As far as I understand, I don't know anything about anime, but that's what Aiden was saying. And then you got, like, that woman from Doctor Strange, and this was a real controversy, where they're like, she's Asian. Or, like, the character was originally Asian. I'm like, the character was originally, like, a Fu Manchu Asian man. Like, Ching Chong Bing Bong racist stereotype Asian man. And they changed it to, like, a Norwegian woman. I'm like, is that such a big deal? Like, they changed the gender to be a woman to... Most likely for inclusiveness purposes, or because that's, you know, they envisioned her as, like, a woman, which is fine. I don't mind that, but I was just confused that Doug was like, that's racist.
The guy who created One Piece has said what countries he thinks all the characters would come from, which is it's actually one of the funniest things ever, because he names off all these countries for for the characters, like specific countries. He's like, Luffy would be from Brazil, fucking Zoro was from Japan, and then for one of the characters, his home country was Africa.
Africa. Dude, who the fuck can actually name 2 countries in Africa? Like, there's like 20.
They both have then we're in.
Exactly. I guess I can
name like 6.
I can name Kenya and Nigeria.
South Africa, Nigeria.
Is South Africa a country?
Yes, it is. That's where District 9 is filmed.
Okay, well, I don't feel bad then if you just call it Africa.
In
it's so confusing, dude.
Whatever.
I thought Egypt was like in like it's like between Asia and Africa.
It's
or
like
something?
northeast
Africa,
which is part of the Middle East. But anyway,
Africa's a big fucking country. Though.
Let's move on.
It's like the biggest fucking country, and yet nobody can name anything but just Africa. And yet you can go there. I can name like 15 Asian countries. I can name like all the European countries. We're racist. That's what I'm saying. Like as a world, as a planet, as a species, humans, we're racist. But the point is, my last final point on this. Doug, quit being a pussy, dude. Who gives a fuck?
Okay. 44 is old versus new Cinderella. I despise this video.
Yeah.
Devil boners in this video a lot.
The original or the remake?
Really? You're asking me this right now?
He's married to Hyper Fangirl?
No, he's
or dating or something?
Banging, dude.
Whatever. Who cares?
It's deep lore.
but he appears a lot in this video. But this review has a twist ending. They talk about the live-action Cinderella versus the cartoon Cinderella, which I do not give a fuck about. And then at the end of the review, they tie, because of course they do, because they always tie. And they're like, Devil Boner, what's your favorite Cinderella movie? And he's like, oh, I don't remember the name of it. The one with fucking Freddie Got Fingered's wife in it?
Answer the question. Cartoon or remake?
Yeah! The cartoon or the remake?
Ever After. The Drew Barrymore movie?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
They're like, he's like, that one, which they weren't even talking about. And then Fangirl and Nostalgia Critic are like, yeah, that's the better one. Forget all this stuff we just talked about for 25 minutes.
Yeah, it was like something.
And they just throw it out. Why does a review have a twist ending? Why? It's a fucking review. They don't even talk about the movie they decide is the best. At the end of the review, they're like, oh yeah, that is the best one. And then it ends.
2 seconds, they're like, wow,
they have like
a stronger woman in this one. And then they're just like, that is the best.
Why does a review have a twist ending?
It's like a double
fucking
twist.
Review.
Well, here's the thing. I hate when he does I hated old versus news back in the day.
Yes.
But old versus news in the modern day are even worse because it's him versus Hyper Fangirl every time. And Hyper Fangirl is so fucking annoying. I'm just bringing this down a bit. And it always, like with the Raimi versus New versus Amazing series, or I guess Raimi versus Web Spider-Man movies, like, he was like, oh, it's a tie. Like, okay, cop out, but I'll accept it one time. And then he does the tie again as like a twist, and it's like the most eye-rolly thing. You're like, okay, well, it's old versus new, just pick which one's better, even though half the time, 90% of the time, Doug's take was bad on these old versus news, but just pick one, whatever, move on. Tie is pretty infuriating. And then Devil Boner is like, well, it's this random 80s adaptation of Cinderella. And everyone's like, right, that is better. And then he says like a 2-minute spiel on it. And he's like, well, turns out we found it out. This is the best one. It's like, dog, go fuck yourself, dude. Seriously, go fuck yourself. Like, this is so stupid. And the fact that he even the fact that now Old versus New is a debate series with Hyper Fangirl, perhaps one of Doug's most annoying new characters, so fucking stupid, dude. And you can also tell this is just like the stupid fucking Ninja Turtles review, where Hyper Fangirl is written just like Doug. Because they can only write Nostalgia Critic. When they write, whoever they're writing as is Nostalgia Critic. So the skits are kind of like the Hyper Fangirl, generic woman, female fangirl. Which I think female fangirls should be offended of, personally, because he makes you out to be like massive retards, although every female character they write is a massive retard.
Pretty much, yeah.
So that's not surprising.
It just...
But I just, like... it just pisses me off so much that...
Having a debate series would be a good idea if he was actually debating someone other than a straw man he made. But then ending it with a twist ending is like... infuriating. It's literally infuriating.
Right. Well, the thing is, both sides of the arguments are straw mans because Doug makes them up. So Doug says this weak argument on his side, and then Hyper Fangirl is able to take out the argument because this is his true opinion. And then he makes a strong argument, and Hyper Fangirl makes a shitty one, and it's back and forth, and it's the same shit when he writes other people's parts.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just pointless because even with the old ones, like even with the old versus new, it kind of felt like a straw man argument when he would be like, well, there's this, but then there's this. But at least it's just one person like naming the pros and cons. When he wants to add this character to make it seem more diverse, who's written just like him, the straw man argument's even more clear, and it's just a straw man argument he sets up so he can smash it down himself. It's just so fucking boring and pointless to even talk about it. I don't know. And ultimately, just review the fucking movie you're going to give the award to, because then I'm like, okay, there's this third movie introduced I know nothing about. It's the same problem with Hocus Pocus in a lot of ways, because you can't just come out of the blue and say, this is the best one.
Yeah.
I never heard it. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm confused. If I saw that movie, maybe I'd be like, yeah, that is the best one. But since I'm not the 10% of Doug's fan base that saw this fucking movie, I have no fucking idea what the fuck he's talking about. So it's, oh my god, it pisses me off so Doug pisses me off so much, dude. Alright, next is the top 11 funniest Shyamalan moments. This video pissed me off 10 times worse than the stupid fuck Cinderella movie. Here's the problem with this video. The top 11 Shyamalan moments is probably Doug's laziest fucking video, rivaled with that stupid video from, I don't remember if it was last season or the one before, where it was just a clip show of out of context
I think that
clips.
was the one before, yeah. The one that Malcolm edited while Doug was on vacation.
Right, the horribly edited video where it's like 10 or 11 naughty jokes we never noticed as kids, and then it was just like no context, just showing it. I'll just put a clip here.
Put her there, Uncle.
Top 11 funniest Shyamalan moments. Doug recites old jokes he made in previous Shyamalan episodes, because he's reviewed like 5 or 6 Shyamalan movies at this point.
Yep. He's basically like, I talked about this before, but, and then he plays a clip, and then he's like, I also talked about this one before.
Right, and he does all the jokes he's done previously.
The worst part.
No, wait. And then he talks about, he does, I think 2 or 3 of the entries are based on the movie The Happening, which he reviewed the week the fuck before.
Yeah, it's
One
so
week
bad.
before. And since we have to watch these in order, and I watched them in the same night, we're hearing the exact same fucking jokes he made last time. And then the worst part is number 1, of course, was he said the entirety of the
Lady in the Water.
Lady in the Water. And it's like, okay, Doug. For the man who, in his goddamn fucking Christmas at the Fockers, I'm really passionate about this right now. In your goddamn Christmas at the Fockers review, or whatever the fuck that stupid ass movie was, you're like, I'm done with these traditions and recurring jokes. Okay, you fill your fucking stupid videos full of these recurring stupid fucking memes, and you have this recurring stupid fucking thing where you're like, number 1 is, I'm gonna review this next time. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna review Lady in the Water next time for number 1. But I think it's such a cop-out to say 11 funniest Shyamalan moments and then have the entire goddamn number 1 be an entire 2.5 hour fucking movie. Like, no, you're just being fucking lazy. You don't want to think of number 1. And to think the other 10 in your top 11 were just these stupid fucking repeat jokes. And then number 1 is... This is my next video. This is one of Doug's laziest fucking videos. And I personally think this
by
is...
far.
This is far from Doug's cringiest top 11 list, but it's his worst. It's his worst top 11 list so far, which is saying a fucking lot. And considering we still have quite a few videos left, that's pretty sad.
46 is Alvin and the Chipmunks. This one has a literal Lindsay Ellis impersonator.
Isn't your movie about chipmunks who operate balloons for diamond smuggling?
Which is weird. The main point of contention about this video, most of the video is actually okay. But at the end, the 3 women, including the Lindsay Ellis impersonator, and the 3 men, which is Doug, Malcolm, and other guy, do like this long song on an MS Paint background and dance around. It's like 4 minutes long.
Cause we're the real Chipmunks movie. You're written by jackasses looking for a check. All you got is a boy chasing Lee. Keep acting like kids are dummies.
Our business deals with Happy Meals. Make us the real Chipmunks movie.
And they're like, the real Chipmunks good movie is the 80s one where
It is
they're
pretty crazy.
cartoons. And he's like, the cartoon movie's so good, and they like sing and dance around. And it's really, I don't
Cringy.
like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Alvin and the Chipmunks.
And the rest of the review is fine, it's just that part was so fucking cringe. Next is Weird the New Brilliant. This is, okay, first off, The title means nothing. It's the same video as last season where he says our cartoons for adult or our kids' cartoons, whatever, more mature, sophisticated now. He just talks about cartoons 90% of the time. He has hot takes where he likes Steven Universe, Sausage Party,
He calls Sausage Party
Pony.
He calls Sausage Party like a genius movie with deep messages for adults when it's a movie about fucking hot dogs fucking each other.
No, not just good, great. Word of mouth started spreading as well, and soon the movie became a hit. Why? Because apparently the movie has clever satire, thought-provoking commentary, and a scenario that helps make its point. This movie.
Right. Doug basically just comes off as an idiot with terrible takes in this one, so cringy takes, I should say.
Yeah. Number 48 is Ghostbusters 2016. The main plot of this episode, is that there's Ghostbuster purists who hate the movie because it's not like the old ones. There's people who like the movie. Those people don't exist. They're just a straw man. All the people are straw men. And then there's meninists who hate the movie because it has women.
You wouldn't say that if it were on a man. Oh, knock it off. You act like anyone who doesn't like this movie is a total sexist hypocrite. Man, yes! Okay, maybe a few of us are.
Oh, Christ, are those the meninists?
We got offshore leave to proclaim our outrage.
Yeah, ladies can't be Ghostbusters.
There already were female Ghostbusters.
Yeah, but not the majority.
As a man, this will not stand.
You know meninist isn't a real movement, right? It's a blanket term. Were you just so anxious to feel like victims you joined the first group you Googled and started complaining?
No!
Yes.
Yes, but we're still relevant. They do not speak for us.
And they all argue about how bad the movie is, and Doug fences the whole time. He's like, the movie's kind of bad, but I think it's really badass how they punch a ghost in the face.
They reenact the movie and he shits on it for a half hour and basically calls it the shittiest movie ever. And then, he's like, it's good.
He's like, it's good because it has action and it's exciting and they punch ghosts in the face.
And he complains that the old Ghostbusters had boring action and this one had cool action.
Yep.
And I'm like, Doug, are you too dense to realize the reason Ghostbusters is good is not because of the action. That's not the point of the movie, Doug. But if you like the fact that they have laser fucking fisticuffs that they can punch ghosts, then congratulations, Doug. Next we have Rogue One, a Star Wars story, starring Doug and Chris Cuckman. They start out this video with Chris Cuckman explaining how Star Wars spin-off movies are going to keep coming out for the rest of our lives and shit. Which I think is everyone's impression because they did announce 20 Star Wars movies. It's just funny when it's in 2020 and you watch somebody being like, they're going to make Star Wars movies forever, and then just to see how, and they'll always make money and they're always going to be great. And then just to see how fucking...
Well, even Doug calls it out.
Here's the thing. So, I'm going to make this edit. So whoever edits this, make this edit. But Solo Star Wars story was kind of like flying an airplane into the World Trade Center. And it basically, it was several airplanes. You got The Last Jedi as the first punch, being a terrible fucking movie no one liked. And then you have the commercial flop that was Solo Star Wars story, just fucking...
They appropriately roast the movie, and they mock things that are bad about it. But at the same time, Doug has a brief sentence where he's like, what if the future is just mediocre Star Wars movies till the end of time, like Rogue One? But then Chris Stuckman's like, well, no, I think they'll make good Star Wars movies till the end of time. And I don't like Chris Stuckman.
Chris Stuckman kind of defends Disney Star Wars. A lot of people do. Chris Stuckman's kind of in that camp, from my understanding. This is my first big introduction to Chris Stuckman. I've definitely seen him around. I've always thought he was kind of shit from when I've seen his videos. They reenact the movie. None of the reenactments I really remember are particularly cringy. I do think Doug is spot on about a few things where he's like, these characters are fucking boring, and that's how it's supposed to be because Disney doesn't want you to care about them enough that you're too sad that they died. Oh yeah, it's pretty accurate. you know, they
a lot
still
of
end
this
up coming to
criticism
the
is valid.
Yeah.
But the thing that ruins it is one
yeah.
part of the reenactment.
I'll let you have this one.
They talk about the part where Darth Vader kills a bunch of rebels, which is honestly, despite how cool looking it is, it's kind of a bad scene. Because it's stupid. Like, why didn't Darth Vader just yoink the fucking plans out of their hands with force pulling?
But in fairness, there's a lot of shit that makes no sense in the Star Wars beyond it's cool,
But
so I can give it a pass.
Doug's reenactment of it is fucking horrible. Darth Vader spends the whole time doing Fortnite dances. He fucking is... Oh god, it's so embarrassing. And then he's killing all the rebels. And at one point, he, like, sucks up a bunch of their bullets with his hand, and then he turns around, lifts up his cape, and then starts farting lasers back at him.
Just when you think he contributed nothing to this movie,
he comes aboard one of the ships and is like,
I have come to deliver the most awesome scene in the movie. Yeah, no, this is nothing. This is literally nothing. I can do this with no hands. Watch. Yeah. Get down. Wow, yeah. My saber is also great at making people shorter. And you belong on the ceiling. Check it out. I'm not even looking at you. That's how easy this is. I'm so cool. Huh, look at his punk ass. Looks like Rebel Kool-Aid. Oh, that's right, bitches. I'm stopping that with my hand. With my goddamn hand. But you know what they say. What goes in must come out. Out my ass. Okay, here we go, everybody. I am fucking amazing. Oh, what you gonna do? Shit's getting hot in here, huh? Oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna duke it out. You're a tough guy, huh? Oh, I'm so scared. Darth Vader's gonna die from your pussy fists. You're gonna save the galaxy with those hands, right? Oh, wait, I forgot I can choke a bitch. Dark side, motherfuckers.
You know what that reminds me of?
And then the credits roll over Darth Vader doing Fortnite dances on a fucking Star Destroyer.
You know what the farting part reminds me
so awful. It's so bad. It's so bad.
The farting part reminds me of Booted and Tooted from Mac and Devin. I just mentioned that so we can play that clip. So there is precedent. However, is this the worst of the rapper films? I don't know, actually. I refuse to watch the other ones, in all truthfulness. I have hated this film for so long, it isn't even the first time I've tried to make a video on it for this channel.
But yeah, that part single-handedly drags the whole review down. Because we were pretty nice to the Force Awakens review last season.
We were pretty generous to it. And
in this one,
Batman vs Superman, we were pretty generous to.
In this one, it is such a bad skit that it literally just destroys the review. It is so bad.
You know, I'm curious to see what Chris Stuckman thinks about Disney Star Wars now. Because I think at this point, Chris Stuckman comes off as a really delusional fanboy.
Yes.
Like, for me, like, maybe it was my delusional fanboyness that convinced me to like the Force Awakens. Granted, I still watch the Force Awakens. Like, I've watched the Force Awakens, like, 4 times now or something, for some reason. But I was, even, like, this is, like, even post, like, Last Jedi, I even slightly enjoyed the Force Awakens still. I still think it's a pretty decent movie. And I like Solo. But after Rogue One, I was like, that movie's just shit. That movie's shit, and Disney Star Wars is gonna be shit. And I was right. But the thing is, Chris Stuckman really comes off as that delusional Disney Star Wars, like, Star Wars can do no wrong type of shit person. Like, oh, now that they're going back to the original trilogy style, there's no wrong that Star Wars can do. And it's kind of embarrassing. I'm kind of curious to see what he's like today. Like, I'm curious to see what he thought of, like, fucking Rise of Skywalker. I'm not gonna watch his videos because I don't care that much, but I'm curious. If someone wants to comment below, I don't know. We probably have someone who's a Chris Stockman viewer. If you could take the time to enlighten me on his opinion, I'm curious.
Our final, lowest rated episode of the season is Phantom of the Opera.
Yes, it is.
This video features a group called Shark Jumping, who are husband and wife, who made videos for about a year after this video came out before retiring and privating all their videos. They were part of Channel Awesome for like a year. This is the obligatory musical episode of the season. Everything is fucking songs, songs, songs.
In dreams I heard the tale of fantasy, a fan of Schumacher's Phantom movie.
There's endless songs. There's this really cringe scene where Doug has a horse mask on and starts harassing the shark jumping girl.
Show her, Buttercup.
But I need to exercise outside for muscular stability.
Just do it.
Fine.
So soft, so smooth, this is sweet seduction. I'm so great at pushing all your buttons. Let me blow your mind with these melodies sublime. I'm a sexy prince with all these cool ass lines.
I stalked the shark jumping girl on Twitter, and I found out that she was really butthurt that Doug changed the scripts. I don't know much about the shark jumping group, but as with all the musical episodes, it's basically like there's a good solid probably 30 minutes of singing this fucking thing. The shark jumping girl is honestly not that bad at singing, but everyone else is.
Her husband's terrible at singing.
And the singing, God, the singing episodes are I fucking hate the musical episodes. I hate them on principle. I hate hearing the fucking Channel Awesome singing. I just don't like it. I don't like it, okay? That's all I have to say. I don't even particularly remember the episode.
There was the horse part. Sewer horse.
I already mentioned the horse. But I just, it's so painful to watch the fucking Channel Awesome singing. I don't like it. No matter what singing episode there is, if there's a musical episode, I just hate it.
It's been last like every time.
Every time, I'm just gonna automatically put it last because it's fucking annoying. I just don't like hearing Doug sing. That's all I have to say. Yeah. So Connor, what are your, not ranking, but a general impression of this season? How do you feel about it?
Honestly, it was really meh. Season 8 had a lot of highs and a lot of deep lows. This season, I mean, most of the videos, there was some shitty stuff, like the old versus new really pissed me off. You know, the fucking Phantom of the Opera episode sucked per usual. But there's nothing like really notable in a good way. Like even The Happening, the best episode, was just meh. And even like the worst here, the Phantom of the Opera, is pretty meh in terms of the bad shit. Like,
yeah,
this season is just very unexciting to me. There was nothing like particularly really good to roast, really bad. Like it's a lot more of just like middle ground the full way through.
Yeah, there's
like the worst stuff and the best stuff isn't as far away as like where like season 8 is so fucking bipolar.
Even the horrible stuff has become routine because like last season we had Hocus Pocus and Mad Max, which were like horrifically bad, and even the Phantom of the Opera was just like eye-rolly. It really does feel like a season of just general mediocrity where the highs are low and the lows are high. And there's nothing horrifically bad or surprisingly good in here to throw it off balance.
Right. I also think Doug is hitting a bit of a routine where like I don't know if it's even me hitting the routine of Doug or Doug. This is my psychoanalysis we hadn't briefly talked about, but I don't know if Doug is actually getting better or if it's just Doug Stockholm syndrome that's making me be like, I don't have a reaction anymore. Like in the early seasons when something was meh or decent for Doug, I would sit.
He did it.
It'd be like, wow, he did it, good job. But I wouldn't like. It would be like I don't feel horrible. And then when something terrible episode happened, I would just feel grim and angry about it. And now it's like I act angry about like the old versus new Cinderella, and trust me, it pisses me off. But I still sit there and watch it, and I feel nothing. And then something pretty good like Turtle Christmas happens, I feel nothing. I just feel nothing at this point. I don't even know if I'm qualified to review these anymore, just because pretty much all, like 60% of the media I've consumed this year has been Dog.
Pretty much.
And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, dude.
We're super close.
We're close to the end. I'm not saying we're gonna give up, because at this point it literally just doesn't even hurt anymore. Dude, it's kind of like, you know.
I don't know. At the end of the day, this season is a very milky middle.
It's a milky middle, dude.
There's no high, there's no low. There's a lot of mediocrity going around. And I'm hopeful that'll change when we get to the next season where we start seeing more epic cringe, but who knows? The next season does look pretty painful. Anyway, that's our thoughts on Nostalgia Critic Season 9. We reviewed all the prior seasons, as well as the movies, as well as Downreel. We'd love it if you checked those out as well. We're planning on continuing the series, so coming up, if you subscribe, you can see the rest of those as they come out. But yeah, it was a pretty mess season overall.